Hey everybody, it's Gary here. And yesterday I told you that I was going to show you how we set up our project manager. And there's a couple other details that I want to share with you so you understand what our basic process is, what our flow is when we go and create something. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to keep everything somewhat informal and put it out on a whiteboard, or we put it onto a Word document, and we want to see the totality of what we're doing in a single area. Now, after we get everything onto a Word document, and we put a lot of time and effort into this, it's not something that we just do one time and then start the project. We will put something out and then we'll revisit it and we'll evaluate it and think about it and write some more. And the more detail and the more thought you put into the start of your project, the better it's going to go in the long run. So, after we get this document created, then we'll take each of those different items and we'll start to transfer it into the project manager. In other words, we'll take a full Word document and we'll slice it up and turn it into individual tasks. And this is what we're going to load into the project manager. So let's go do that right now.
Setting up your project manager is very easy to do. All you'll have to do is come into your project manager module and we'll name our first project. And we can put a project description in or just leave it blank. Now what I like to do with my projects is require that when a task is completed, that it requires admin approval before it's actually completed. The reason I like to do this is because I want to make sure that when someone claims that they've completed a task, that it's actually completed to my standard and to the specification provided. There's often a disagreement as to what done actually means, and by having this option, I have the final say to determine whether a task is actually done or almost done. Now I'll just save the project. Now the first thing you'll see is the dashboard when you enter the project manager. Over here on your right side, you have your list of projects. Because we only have one project, there's only one project listed here. But if we had 5 or 6 or 8 projects, all of them would be listed on the right side, and you could just click on the project you wanted to work on, and you would bounce right over to that project. With the dashboard, you'll be able to see what tasks were added today, tasks updated today, the tasks approved, tasks that are due, overdue, pending approval, and pending approval when closed, and finally, there's tasks that are unapproved. If you have a task that is completed, but you don't like the way it's completed, when you click the unapproved, it'll end up in this bucket here, so you can easily see which tasks need to be addressed and updated before they're finally approved. Across the top, you'll see 4 icons, and these are really handy shortcuts, and the first icon you see is for our master dashboard. This dashboard will show you the status of all the tasks in all your projects on one screen. The next icon is our sprint function. And I'll get into more detail about how we use sprints in the future, but this is a really great feature. It really helps manage your projects, and it's something I highly recommend that everybody use. Then of course we have the calendar, and then the home button. The difference between the master dash and the standard dashboard home button is that the home button will only show you the updates for this particular project. So if you want to see all the projects, click on Master Dash. If you want to see only this particular project, click on the Home button. And of course, clicking on your Task button will take you to your list of tasks. The Message button will take you to your list of messages. Files, to all the files that you have stored within your project manager. And lockboxes. Now lockboxes are a unique feature to this project manager, and basically it's a way for you to store information within a project that you can password protect, and then just share that password with the people that you want to grant access to this proprietary information. The status path allows you to make custom status paths. By default, we put in a start, 25%, 50%, 75%, and lastly, end. But you could call this anything that you wanted to call it. So you could call this headers. For example, if you were making websites and you needed to do the headers on a regular basis, you might have a custom status path just for that particular operation. Now, if you want to have multiple status paths, you can just add one. And again, what you can do with this status path is customize it so that it meets your needs for a particular task. And when you have multiple status paths, when you add a task into your project manager, all you have to do is select the status path for this particular task. So you can have 2, 3, 10, 15 different status paths, all customized so that they meet a particular need for a particular type of task that you have in your project. And of course, if you need to add an additional status point into the status path, you can do that as well. And there you see it's added into the status path. Or you can actually delete a status point if you have more status points than you actually need. Sometimes you'll want to delete the status points because you have a very simple type of task which only has a start point and an end point, and there really isn't much of a duration. It's either done or it's not done, and that's it. Naturally, you can add more projects, and all you do is click on this menu item. Or if you want to turn an existing project into a template, you can do that as well. All you'll do is create a project and then click on the template button. It'll turn that particular project into a template, and then you would have access here where you could just click on it and replicate that project. Again, this comes in very handy if you do things that are repetitious, such as making websites and you follow the same basic steps and processes over and over again. You have a list of reports so you can measure your productivity. And of course, you can set your admins and users and customize the system-generated emails that are produced by this project manager. And now let's go ahead and start populating our first project from the Word document that we created with our master specification. So I'll come into Tasks, and I'm going to add a task list. And I'm going to call this one General Overview. And then I'll call the task Master Specification. And then I'll just upload the Word document right into this task. And just double click it. I'm not going to assign this to anyone because there's really no specific action that any individual needs to take. This master specification will be for everyone to access. I'm not going to put any duration into this task because it's just a master file, and there's no start date, no end date, and I like to keep things at a normal priority. Unless something is extremely important, then I will move it at the highest priority, or if it's something that maybe we'll do, maybe we won't do, and frankly no one cares if it ever gets done, but it's kind of nice to have, that's the type of task I would put in at the lowest priority. But generally, I leave it at a normal priority as a rule of thumb. And just hit submit, and that task is done. So what you need to think about when you're creating your project is that task lists operate like folders, and then tasks will reside underneath each of the task lists. So in this case, I'm going to add another task list, and I'm going to call it Video Items. And I'll add my first task. What I'm going to do now is simply go back to my Word document, and I'm going to take the text out of my Word document, copy it, and paste it right into my task. And of course, I'll create a task title and do this in a way that works a lot like a newspaper headline, something that makes it easy to know what's in the task without having to read the entire task. And again, I'm going to assign it to a person. At this point, I'm the only person in the project, so I'm the only person that can be assigned to the task. Now, if you want to leave this blank and come back later and assign it to people, you certainly can do that because all of these items are optional. I'm going to leave the priority at normal and then just hit submit. Now you'll notice that I don't put a start date or an end date in there. And the reason I don't do that is because I like to work off what we call sprints. And the sprint is a way to take a large group of tasks, let's say 100 tasks in a project, and then further subdefine that into specific sprints so that you can choose 10 tasks or 5 tasks that you're going to get done in a certain period of time. For us, that period of time is 1 week. So we take an entire project, we take all the tasks in the project, and we create sprints week by week by week, and we do a 1 week forward planning for particular tasks that we're going to get done in the next week. The sprint function makes it a lot easier to manage a highly complex project or a project with a long-term duration. Now you'll also note that we now have 2 tasks shown here, and one of them is expanded and the other is not. You can also do that by taking the standard view and seeing everything in the task, and you can expand all the task lists so that you see all the tasks in all the task lists. Of course, there's only 2 task lists and only 2 tasks, so you're not seeing much more at this point than you would if you just expanded 1 or 2. But if you had 15 task lists and you had 20 or 30 tasks in each of those lists, this is a great way to scan down on one page and find the particular task that you're looking for. Or of course, you can always use the quick search to find the task you're looking for. I think you have a general idea now of how we go about doing this. It comes down to adding task lists and then adding tasks underneath each of the task lists. So rather than go through the whole process of uploading the entire task list in this video, I'm going to stop now, and then later I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done.
There, that was easy, wasn't it? And I think you can see what we're doing is taking a total project, we're slicing it up into individual pieces, and then we're tracking and prioritizing each one of those tasks so we can have a firm idea of what we're doing in this project. If you try to do this with one giant document as we've created, you're going to get about 1/3 of the way through and everything is going to start to fall apart. You'll start losing track of which task you're supposed to be doing, what the priority is, what's done, what isn't done, etc. The project manager will keep all of this straight for you. And of course, you can take that Word document, as I've done, and store it as a master file inside your project manager as a reference document. All right, thank you, and I hope this helps, and I'll see you tomorrow.